next activity that we are going to do, let me share my screen here. There are a handful of activities in my classroom that I call just staple activities. It does not matter. This activity happens every single year, every single semester, and this is one of those activities. I will be very honest with you. I've never done this in a virtual space before. It's been done before. This is not our first rodeo with this curriculum. We'll talk afterwards, like kind of what you expect to see when you run it in your classroom and how it's going to be kind of different from virtual. But kind of running it virtually, this is going to be my first time to see how it runs. And I think it's going to be great. I know it's going to be great. So this is activity number 2. This is what we call the task of the planning minister. So let me do a little bit of some setup for us first, okay? Our economy produces only two goods. Our economy produces pencils and our economy produces candy. Those are the two goods that our economy is going to produce. Now, I, as the dictator that I am, and it is benevolent most times, I am going to appoint some planning ministers, and our planning ministers are going to decide how much of each of these goods will be produced and also what price that they are going to be sold at. All right. It's just going to be kind of a random picking here on you. So I see Eric Nicklaw. Eric, will you be a planning minister for me? Just give me a thumbs up if you can do that. Awesome, great. And Amy Puckett. Amy, can you give me a thumbs up if you'll be a planning minister for me also? Awesome, great. Thank you guys so much. And actually, because I don't want to forget this, let me write names down really fast. And because this is where I always make mistakes in my class, is I forget who I appoint to do what. Great. So Eric and Amy, let me give you guys some instruction first, okay? Your job as my planning ministers, your job is to allocate resources for production. And your goal is to provide the goods and services that citizens want and need. And you also want to use all available resources. Okay. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to put you guys into a breakout room so you can make these decisions. You may want to take maybe a picture of this slide on your phone just so you might have it to reference. Because when you go into the breakout room, you won't have, I don't think my screen shares across. So, your goal is to decide first how many pencils and how much candy to produce. Okay. Now, the maximum that you can produce is either 25 pencils and 0 pieces of candy, or 0 pencils and 50 pieces of candy. Now, you can also do any sort of proportionate combination within that, right? So you can do 24 pencils and 2 pieces of candy, or 23 pencils and 4 pieces of candy, etc. So essentially, for every 1 pencil you're giving up, you get 2 pieces of candy. Does that make sense there? I realize we're not math people; we're social studies. That's why we teach social studies, because we're not math people. But we're good there, Amy and Eric. That makes some sense there. Great, awesome. I'll tell you how I have it set up in my classroom for everyone at the end here. Your second goal, after you guys decide how much of each combination to produce, your second goal is to then assign prices to pencils and also to candy. Okay. So you're first going to decide what combination to produce. And then the second thing you're going to decide is how much to charge in rubles. Okay. Now, your consumers are each going to have 20 rubles. All right. So that will be important to kind of keep in the back of your brain, is at most your consumers will have 20 rubles that they will be spending in our stores. Okay. So, Eric and Amy, let me pause here really fast. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Those are the only two goals.
Those are your own. Yeah, that's it. It's real
I
simple,
guess.
actually.
Okay.
Right. And then the other thing that I am going to do is I need 2 store managers who are going to run my stores for me. So let's see here. Let's see. I'm just kind of looking through my screen. Let me go to page 2 and see who I might get on page 2 here. Let's see. I think Luke, since you had Malhaz as a teacher, Luke, will you mind being a store manager for me, please? Luke Ayers, great. I don't know if I've got multiple Lukes. So Luke Ayers, you're going to be a store manager for me. I'll tell you what store you're going to manage in a second. And let's see. Also, Colleen Davis. Colleen, will you be a store manager for me? Great, awesome. So put your name down. Awesome. Okay, so let me kind of give some general instructions to Eric, Amy, Luke, and Colleen. All right. These are kind of just some big 30,000 foot view directions. We only have two factories. One is going to produce pencils and the other is going to produce candy. Luke, I'm going to have you sell pencils. And Colleen, I'm going to have you sell candy. Okay. You're going to be you're going to be able to listen in on some of the conversation, my store managers, but you're going to be finding out exactly how much is going to get produced and also what those prices are. And so what you're going to do is when we get to that point, which will happen in a few minutes, we're going to put you into individual breakout rooms where you guys will run your stores. And it's going to be up to you to kind of keep track of that inventory, right? So Luke and Colleen, let's say, and I'm just going to go with Luke. Luke, let's say that they say that, you're going to produce 3 pencils. Luke, it's going to be up to you to figure out like, okay, I know I've got 3 pencils to sell. And so you're going to sell those pencils as people come into your breakout room. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're going to go, okay, Brad wants a pencil, so I'm going to sell Brad a pencil for whatever price. And then you know that you have 1 less pencil. Okay. Or, maybe Brad wants 2 pencils. And so Luke, you're going to charge him accordingly. And so you're going to kind of keep up with how many pencils you have throughout. So Luke and Colleen, probably where this is going to get a little kind of squirrely in the virtual room is you might have people trying to like throw it in the chat. My suggestion for everyone at Hull is to unmute yourself and be, Luke, I want to buy 1 pencil. This is Austin Green. And Luke is going to go, Austin Green, I am selling you 1 pencil. And so then Luke, keep track that you are down 1 less pencil and also keep track of that money. And then I, as someone buying pencils, is going to know that I have, fewer rubles to buy other goods and services. Okay. So planning ministers and store managers, we are going to put you, I believe Debbie has 3 breakout rooms created. Debbie, we're going to put them all into the 3rd breakout room before we send you guys there. When you guys go to that breakout room, it is going to be up to our planning ministers, Eric and Amy, to decide the combination and the prices. Luke and Colleen, you guys just get to listen in. Okay, that's all you guys get to do. You don't get to make any decisions with them. It is solely up to Eric and Amy to make those production decisions. Okay. So for my 4, Eric, Amy, Luke, Colleen, any questions for me that I can try to answer before we send you to to breakout room 3 to have discussion and listen into discussion?
I think I'm good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, I've got thumbs up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and send you guys to breakout room 3. And once you guys are gone, I'm going to give some instruction to everybody else.
Okay, I think those 4, I think you need to select it to join.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hey, this is Mandy. I'm sorry. I was when you do this in class, do you have them have like physical money instead of like imaginary money?
It's a great question. There in the original lesson plan there is actually like a ruble sheet where they can like tear them off. I just tell my store managers to like cross them off, and that represents like that you've spent some money. Yeah, and we'll talk kind of like how this looks in the classroom because it's going to look very different. So let me make sure we've got. It looks like we're just waiting for Colleen to go to that planning minister breakout room. And once they're all there, I'm going to give some. Okay, so they're all there. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all some instruction. All right. You all have 20 rubles that you're going to be able to spend. Okay. You're going to keep track of the cash that you spent and the cash remaining. Okay. So if they come back and tell us that pencils are 3 rubles, If you buy 2 pencils, you have spent 6 rubles. You have 14 rubles left to spend. I just did math really, really quick, so I hope I did it right also. I think I did. You're free to buy as many products as you want. You're free to buy as few products as you want. You're free not to spend any of your money if you want. Okay. You may also try and negotiate as long as you have cash. But there is something really, really, really important that all of you need to know. This is very important. In order for you to move up in Soviet society, you have to take an exam and you have to pass that exam. And in order to take exams, you must have a pencil. Okay? So in order to pass your exam, in order to move up in our Soviet society, you must have a pencil. Yeah, do we all understand here? Give me some thumbs up if we understand what we all must have. Okay. Now, the next thing, this is where it's going to be a little clunky here, okay, is that you're going to have to move between the breakout rooms. Okay, so I think my next slide tells us. So breakout room number 1, and I think actually, Debbie, I think you put names on them. Is that correct, Debbie? If I was looking at that break,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, they're all named.
Beautiful. So you're going to see there's going to be a breakout room that says pencils, and there's going to be a breakout room that says candy. Okay, and so you can freely move between those breakout rooms to do your shopping, to buy your pencils, and to buy your candy. Okay. So again, this is going to be where you're going to need to kind of keep up with how many rubles that you've spent. Okay. Also, make sure, again, this is going to be a little bit of a weird thing, is that make sure when you go into those breakout rooms, Luke is going to be managing our pencil store. So if you're going into Luke's room, hey, Luke, this is Austin. I want to buy 3 pencils from you. And Luke is going to say, okay, Austin, I am selling you 3 pencils. Okay. So just make sure that we know who's buying and selling what. Okay. Let me pause. I'm going to go check on them in just a second, but I want to ask, do you guys have any questions for me before I go and check on them?
Can we do black market deals, or is that allowed? Can we buy something and then resell it to another consumer or not?
So, Malhaz, I don't know how this is typically run. Do we want to set up a 4th breakout room that is a common marketplace room?
No, if you're going to do that, you don't do that that way. Basically, you let it happen. And then afterwards, you discuss it with students. And even if that happens, that's okay. That's going to be a big issue when we're looking at the black market and Soviet Union emerged. But you don't want to condone it and saying that I'm going to create officially the broom.
Yeah.
You want to say,
So
okay, it just happens, and be like, well, you do what is best for you. But then afterwards, it emerges, and students do all these kinds of things, and it's a good discussion.
Yeah. So I cannot condone this kind of behavior. I cannot condone said behavior. All right, let me go check. Any other questions? That was a good question. Any other questions?
How many rounds will there be?
There are planned 2 rounds. Other questions? So let me go check on my planning ministers here, and let me see how they're doing. So give me about a minute or so to check on them, and I'll be right back. Let me join them here. Okay, friends, I am back. Wow, y'all, Mandy was giving me a wave, yes, I am back. This is exciting. Okay, so let me make sure my store owners are in their respective stores, and then I'm going to kind of give you guys some information. Okay, so here are the decisions that have been made. Lots of important decisions. Let me share my screen. That way you can see these too. Okay, so what you will see here, ignore that it says round 3. That's just in case I need a practice round. Okay, that's all that's for. So we have 10 pencils that are going to get produced at 10 rubles. We have 30 pieces of candy that are going to be produced at 5 rubles each. Okay, and again, remember the very important piece of direction that I gave you and what you need to make sure that you have. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to stop my share. Also, let me just be one more time before the chaos ensues in virtual world. Please make sure that if you're going into Luke's room to buy a pencil, that you are clearly saying, this is Austin. I want to buy X number of pencils. That way, and Luke is going to say, okay, Austin, I am selling you X number of pencils, and then keep track on your sheet. Yeah? Give me 2 thumbs up if we're a yeah. I've got 2 thumbs up for yes. Okay, great. I'm going to stop my share.
I have a question.
Oh, yes. I
Hold
forgot
on.
to ask you guys questions before
Oh,
we.
so the pencils are 10 rubles each?
Yes.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And then you guys should be able to just jump into any room that you want to jump into at this point. And we're just going to let the virtual Zoom chaos ensue. Go. Got Luke and Colleen here because I've got a couple questions for them. Okay, I see Colleen is there. And I think Luke is here. Awesome, great. Okay, so Luke, let me start with you really fast. Luke, how many pencils did you sell?
I sold 10.
Luke, you sold all 10, so you have no pencils left. Great. And let's see, Colleen, how many pieces of candy did you sell?
I sold all 30.
Sold all and had nothing left. Okay, now for everybody else, because we want satisfaction in our society, and so I really need to know if Eric and Amy did a good job. Okay, so good comrades. If you are not satisfied, would you please hit the raised hand button there if you are unsatisfied with how my planning ministers did? Just hit the little raised hand feature. We're not going to say anything. Just hit the little raised hand button there, and let's find out who all is not happy. And let me pull this up because it's going to let me easily count. Keep it raised there. Actually, yeah, there we go. So keep hitting that raised hand feature there. So it looks like I have, so I've got more who are coming up here. This may not have been the best way to have done this. Okay, so I've got more hands coming up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm at 8, 9. 9, 10, it looks like. So it looks like that there was maybe between 10 to 12. There was a lot that kind of went up here. So there's a handful of you who aren't happy. There's a handful of you who are not happy. And my planning ministers need to understand that while it's only 12 people, out of 30 some odd people, that's a substantial number, planning ministers. Planning ministers, Eric and Amy. This is not good. Eric and Amy, do we understand what happens when the peasants are not happy with us? Do you know what happens when they're not? Eric, at the end, Eric, when the peasants are not happy with us, what do?
They revolt.
Correct. And Amy, when the peasants revolt, what happens to us?
We lose control.
Correct. More than we lose control. We hope that doesn't happen. Okay, so Eric.
Well, I was trying to be nice.
Mandy's already starting the revolt in the chat right now as well. And okay, so Eric and Amy, you guys had the chance to sit and maybe watch some dynamics that were going on. So Eric and Amy, I'm going to give you the chance, and let me kind of pull up my slides here and let me share my screen here. Let me share the screen here. So Eric and Amy, because the peasants are unhappy with us, okay, I'm going to give you some new instructions. You can change the allocation in pencils if you wish. Okay, you guys got to see maybe what happened here. However, I do not trust you with prices. So I'm going to leave prices the same. But I'm going to let you change the allocation that you want to change. Yes? Now, you're going to go back into that breakout room. That's for the planning ministers. And my store managers, you guys are also going to go to that breakout room. And again, you're going to be some quiet observers in this discussion. All right. So Eric and Amy, before you guys go to your breakout room, do you guys have any questions for me? Besides, don't get us whacked. We don't want to get killed.
Yeah.
Really
That's really my only question.
You all have 20 extra rubles, and I'm going to let them know this information, but you all have 20 more rubles. So think about whatever you have left. You now have 20 more. Okay. And congratulations to all of you. Because whether or not, if you got a pencil or not, we need to move you up in society anyway. Like, I just need more people moving up in society. And so everyone, that's just the fun thing about what I can do as a dictator. Everyone has passed the university exam. So let's throw our hands up and celebrate that we have all passed our university exams. Way to go. Now we need to celebrate this momentous occasion for passing our university exams. And so here is how we need to celebrate our momentous occasion. We are planning a party for our friends and our relatives to thank them for supporting us along our journey. And obviously, in order to celebrate, you need lots and lots and lots of candy for your guests. Yes? Yes? Do we all understand? Give me 2 thumbs up if we all understand. Okay, excellent. I am going to go and check on my store owners and my planning ministers really fast and listen in on their discussion. So give me 1 or 2 minutes to check in with them. All right, friends, they have made their decisions. So let me share with you what they hath decided. All right, so for round 2, the prices are the same. We could not let them change that. I did not trust them with that, and I am trying to look out for you, my good peasants. So pencils are still 10 rubles. Candy are still 5 rubles. There are going to be 20 pencils for sale, and there are going to be 10 pieces of candy for sale. Now, do we all remember our very important piece of information that we were given? Yes, give me some thumbs up. Give me some thumbs up that we remember a very important piece of information. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Again, remember, make sure that there's kind of some sort of confirmation on who's getting sold what. And let the chaos ensue. The markets are open for you to go to your various stores. Let's see. Luke, hit the unmute button for me. Luke, how many pencils did you sell, Luke?
I sold 11 out of 20.
You sold 11 out of 20. Okay. And let me go and just share my screen so we can all see this.
I have a question about, I was unable to go to the, like once I went in the candy, I couldn't leave that to go in the pencil.
You had to come back to the main breakout.
It didn't give me any option to go.
No, we're just trapping you in our Soviet stores then.
I know, I'm revolting. Hey.
All right.
I just didn't know if I was doing something wrong.
No, and it could be technology too. All right. So Eric and Amy, now is the moment of truth for us. Good peasants, if you are unhappy, please, and actually I'm going to do this differently. If on your screen, since all of you have your cameras on, if you will raise your hand right there on your screen, and just, if you are unhappy, just raise your hand on screen there, and I'm going to do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh no, oh no, oh no. 12, hold tight, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh no, oh no, oh no. There's 20. Eric and Amy, this is not good. Eric and Amy, we have more people upset with us now than we did last time. And Eric and Amy, this is the part where the peasants revolt and overthrow us and kill us. But let's debrief before the killing commences. Eric and Amy, will you both let us, will you both tell us a little bit about how did you make your decisions about the allocation of resources and prices? What was going through y'all's decision-making process?
Well, in the first round, we kind of both said, like, hey, if it was me, I would prefer candy over pencils. So we thought we would make more. I think in terms of like setting the prices, then we're thinking, well, if there's less pencils, let's set the price a little bit higher. I was also trying to be kind to our store managers and make it like relatively even numbers as well. as opposed to being like 7 rubles or, you know, some odd number.
How
But
benevolent.
then we also, you know, talked about like wanting to make the price reasonable. I knew that that was going to create a shortage, but I thought people would prefer. I was thinking people would maybe be happier if we could afford stuff as opposed to making everything 20 rubles, so you just could buy one thing and that was it.
Okay. Amy, what did you notice taking place when the stores opened? And it may have been a little hard in virtual world, but what were you surprised by some things?
Well, yeah, we ran out of candy really quick.
Okay, so in which round? In round 1 or round 2?
2.
Okay, so you noticed in round 2 you ran out of candy really, really quick.
Yeah,
Eric,
well, there was one guy selling on the black market.
that was when we shut it down, was when illegal things were taking place. We shut it down. Eric, were you in the pencil store in round 1?
Yeah, we split. So I went to the pencil store for both rounds, and Amy went to the candy store for both rounds.
So Eric, what did you notice in the pencil store in round 1?
Right off the bat, people came in and they were outbidding the price. People were trying to pay more than the 10 rubles. And we did sell out pretty quickly. It was a little bit chaotic as people were trying to jump in and get them as quickly as they could.
Was it a little surprising to you? I mean, you said earlier that you thought everyone was going to want candy. So is it surprising that like everyone was going after the pencils?
That was a little surprising. Yeah. Especially when people were starting to bid. I mean, I didn't see that coming when people came in of, well, I'll pay 16, I'll pay 17. I didn't expect that.
Oh,
We didn't have bidding for candy.
There was no bidding for candy. Well, let's ask our peasants what they were doing. Good peasants. What piece of information did you all have for round 1? Just throw it in the chat. What did you need for round 1? Just drop it in the chat. That way we don't have mass chaos of everyone shouting stuff out. Let's just look at the. Oh, pencils. Oh, Mandy, they needed to pass an exam. Eric and Amy, how did you not know that they had an exam to take? They needed pencils to take their exam. How did you guys not know this? I hired the best of the best. How did you not know this?
I feel like our leadership maybe didn't provide us all the information we needed.
You are part of this benevolent dictatorship. You should have had every piece of information that you needed. Interesting, but then something. So you guys changed some things in round 2, and in round 2 you guys switched and did more candy production. And Amy said that she noticed in round 2 that like it was a flood of people who were coming for candy. Good peasants, why did you all go and flood to go get some candy in round 2? Just throw that in the chat. Oh, because they all passed the exam and they needed the candy to have a party.
Okay, my research assistant is fired.
Okay, the research assistant. So here's the question. When we think about maybe what took place, Eric and Amy did not have all of the information that they needed, right? And when we think about maybe what role prices play and what role prices don't play, when we have planning ministers who are trying to coordinate an entire economy, it gets really, really messy, really, really fast. And what ends up happening is that in an economy where we have markets that work, we let prices tell us about those goods and services, right? I don't have a clue about the extent of what's going on with eggs. All I know is when I walk into a store that I see eggs are incredibly expensive. I see that I can only buy 1 or 2 dozen of eggs for each transaction. And that's really the extent of what I know. Now, I'm willing to bet if I turned on the news, I'm going to find out that there's probably bird flu. That's going to be my most likely guess. I'm guessing that's probably what it is. And I'm probably going to guess that a lot of like suspected cases, like we've had a lot of birds that like, that's what I'm guessing. Right. But I, as a consumer, don't know every last little detail. I just know that it's a little bit more expensive for some reason. But when you don't have those prices in play, it's really, 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 really hard for information to get conveyed across an economy. Now, maybe think about this. Okay. Walmart has 110,000 roughly unique prices. Think about if we had planning ministers for Walmart alone. That's a lot to coordinate. That's a lot to figure out. And that's a lot to plan. All right. But I don't want to steal Malhaz's thunder on where he goes with central planning decisions and pricing. So let me just briefly take maybe 2 or 3 minutes and talk about the kind of the classroom strategy. So in the classroom setting, you're going to have just 2 individuals that have 2 stores set up in your classroom. Buy you some cheap Amazon basic pencils and buy you a big bag of candy, and you're going to be set for the entire activity, and you're going to be good to go. The original lesson plan on FTE's website, and I believe it's in our link also. If not, I'll make sure it's there. The original lesson plan has a production possibility of combinations. So you don't need to have your students like do the math of like, oh, I'm giving up 1 pencil, I'm gaining 2 candies. Like it's broken up and like these are your combinations. So they just have to like pick what combination. It always works out this way. I've run this activity for 10 years, I think, and it always works out this way. It always works out where everyone is going to rush to the pencil store first, and everyone is going to rush to the candy store in the second round. And then you're going to see the black markets develop also. Sometimes this is something that I was talking with another mentor teacher about. Sometimes the black market with students are a little bit slower to start. Give it just enough time for 1 or 2 students to kind of like get that going. And you may need to like go and encourage 1 student to do it, or like slip them something that says, hey, it's okay if you want to do this. I'm seeing more and more, again, running this for 10 years. 10 years ago, the black markets were getting going really, really fast. I've noticed over the last couple of years, it takes a little bit longer for my students to run a black market. And I'm not sure why that is, other than maybe they're just terrified of breaking rules. I don't know.
I have a question. I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
This is Colleen. I was the candy store manager, and honestly, the only issue or the thing that I noticed most was just that it was more about like if someone could buy, how much they could buy, right? And people were like, "What?" You know, like, "Oh, I only have 3 left." One person, I sold all 3 to that person. And so some people are like, "Oh, you know, you should have only given them 1, then more people could have it," or something like that. So how would you, or like, is there a way to incorporate some sort of like, you know, sometimes stores have like, oh, limit, you can only buy 2 of this product because it's on sale, or you can only blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Is that relevant at all? Or we think we could work that in?
So I think it's entirely up to the store managers. I've had in workshops, oh man, I did this with Josh Dalton in Atlanta once, where he was a store manager for me because we were short on teachers, and he was pocketing candy. And then like he would just come up to me afterwards and I'm like, dude, why are you pocketing candy? And he was like, because kind dictator, I wanted to give you a piece of candy. And so like when we think about how these this kind of command style economy is, there's corruption that you're going to see taking place. So you could, you could want to keep some just for yourself, or you could want to sell some to a friend and like, oh, well, that person's a good friend of mine. So of course I'm going to give them 3. I'm going to sell them 3, or I'm going to charge you a different price because I know you, or I'm going to charge you a higher price because I don't like you. And if it happens, just let it absolutely happen, because the discussion and debrief after that is yeah, there are levels of corruption that take place.
And I like that question, because just before I did this program, I went to a grocery store here in Trader Joe's, and they have a thing where you buy eggs now. You can only buy 1 carton of eggs per customer, right? Now, but think about it. Who would have stopped me if I bought it, went, put it in my car, came back and bought the second one, had my wife go in instead of me, bought another one, come back. So the thing is that when you're doing those kinds of things, it's problematic, right? Meaning that you can't really control it like that. People find a way. If there's an interest, they'll find a way. Maybe I have a way of selling it at higher price. Only way that I could really control it is raise the price of eggs. If I raise the price of eggs, and I just want to buy some eggs to just kind of, I don't know, play some games with the kids or something, that maybe it's not worth it for me. But somebody who really needs it is we're going to willing to buy it. But the problem then arises that, okay, high price of eggs, poor people can't afford it, right? So that's what the capitalist system kind of, you got a problem. Well, you could remedy that to some extent by society, not necessarily government, but the society subsidizing those poor people and providing money to buy those eggs or something like that. But it becomes very complicated, and I like that you were that, because we see that, right? I just saw it this morning.
Yeah. And Malhaz, before I turn it over to you, the one that I saw that I remember was during the great toilet paper pandemic of 2020.
Yeah.
And I remember going through Target, and there was a dad and his daughter who was probably high school age, and then son who was probably middle school or early high school, somewhere in there though. Dad had a thing of toilet paper, daughter had a thing of toilet paper, son had a thing of toilet paper. Each of them 3 different credit cards. Each of them came through as 3 different consumers to buy toilet paper. Watched all of them load up in the same car. And again, it's how that changes. And I saw someone who posted in there, egging cars has pretty much become cost prohibitive. Very, very true. So this is a great activity. This is one of my favorite staples to do in class. The kids really get into it. And you can teach so many different things with this. You can teach institutions with it and how, like, trying to find ways around rules. It's such a fun activity to do in class. And again, it works in pretty much econ classes, government classes. If you're in a history class, you can do it there to show some of the downsides to it in a history class. So all sorts of great ways to do it. And it worked really well in a virtual world too. So Malhaz, I'm going to turn it over to you because it says it's your turn.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Thank you. And again, this is a great activity, and we have different versions of this, and there's a number of different versions of it, floating around. And it is a very powerful tool to kind of look at and say, look, on basic level, we can approach this complex economy and then see if we can do better than just a chaotic market, right? Market is controlled by greedy individuals. And I saw it here too. People are just buying all these pencils and then reselling it, and the black market is emerging it. So all this greed is corrupting and creating where the resources are not going to the people who really want it. So maybe we can do better. And that was the idea of the socialism and the communism, right? The scientific communism, scientific socialism. But I use this example in my class, and I want to actually, before I go to the slides, I want to share the screen because I had to look it up. So I ask students, let me set this up and then I'll share the screen. What if I told you that, if I take a deck of cards, which is 52 cards, right? And I shuffle it, just shuffle it once, right? The combination of the cards that have existed, that have been created, this combination of the cards that have been created in here in this deck by shuffling it once, has never, ever, ever existed before. Does that sound right? No? I mean, come on. Isn't there a chance that could be, that same combination could have happened? Well, there's mathematical formula to calculate that, right? Which is 52 factorial, right? Now, when I say, like, how big is a 52 factorial? And I had to look it up, and I actually went to the chat GPT to ask and say, okay. And instead of dancing around asking what 52 factorial is, ask ChatGPT, what is the number taken at the factorial which is greater than the number of seconds that have existed since Big Bang? And it's 20 factorial. So 20 factorial is a number that is greater than number of seconds that have existed since Big Bang. So 52 factorial, it's improbable. It's highly unlikely that combination has existed. Now, why am I talking about this? Because that's 52 separate different cards organized in a way to create some unique combination. How many different types of capital, machinery, land, resources, human capital, knowledge there are, all those moving parts for the benevolent dictator that has access to AI, that has access to the best technology even available right now, to create the economy that will satisfy the most amount of people. It is an impossible number. So that's why governments are much more inefficient than markets. Not because, and if we assume the governments are the most benevolent and want to do the best, it's because they have their hands tied behind their back. Because in order to produce something based on this goal, and the goal is to satisfy people's wants, where is that information? That information is in the heads of individuals. It relies in the hands of individuals, right? It's decentralized. In order to decide to take these resources, different types of resources, arrange it in a certain way to produce the goods and services to satisfy all those individual wants and needs, you have to take up all that various information, aggregate it, give it to the centralized computer or centralized decision maker. Then the central decision maker will look at the resources and arrange it in a way to match it with the right. It's impossible, right? So that's why public goods and governments are at disadvantage. What is the advantage of the capitalist good? It's an emergent system, and in that emergent system, prices play the signal that is being sent from me without me doing anything. I don't have to go when I go to the store and let's say the price of something has increased. I don't have to tell them my life story. It's like, well, price is higher. I'm not going to pay this. I just don't buy it, right? That means I send a signal that my willingness to buy is lower than what the price is, right? So the prices are like a pulse of the economy, right? We have the right costs and benefits that are captured by prices. It's the pulse of economy. It's all the people's willingness to buy, all their tastes and preferences, all their unique situations captured in their willingness to buy, and that's their willingness to bid for the price. And the producers know their information, what the cost of production is. Suddenly there's some kind of a shortage of eggs because of bird flu and all this stuff. And even if information is out and nobody knows that manufacturer knows it. Therefore, his cost of production goes up. Therefore, they're charging higher price. So the price sends the signal constantly. And it's this kind of like brain neurons, they're firing constantly instead of one centralized area where the information is concentrated. Information is shared, and this market evolves constantly. So it's not perfect, but it is much more efficient than the government's system. So that's what I wanted to kind of mention really quickly. I know it took a little bit of time, but I think it's really worthwhile because I really like that this emerges from this from this activity that we see